Hello. The next softening process is ion exchange process. Now this process is very useful in our daily life, and this process has one process and three names. The three names are ion exchange process, deionization process, demineralization process. One process contains three names. Okay. Now, after studying the process, I will explain why these names are given to only one process. Ion exchange resins are insoluble cross-linked long-chain organic polymers with a microporous structure, and the functional group attached to these chains responsible for the ion exchanging properties. Resins containing acidic functional groups such as acidic group COOH, sulfate group SO3H, etc. are capable of exchanging their H plus ions with their cations. So these ions having the exchanging facility to exchange the H plus ions are used in the cation exchangers, which comes in their contact, whereas those containing basic functional groups NH2NH or hydrochloride are capable of exchanging their anions with other ions, which comes in contact. So these are used in the anion exchanger. The ionic exchange resins can be classified as cation exchange resins. There are two types of exchangers. One is cation exchange resins, which are generally denoted as RH plus. Now these cation exchange resins are having the capacity of exchanging H plus ions, and their functional groups are acidic group and sulfate group, COOH and SO3 minus H plus. See this diagram. This is the diagram of sulfonate form of cation exchanger. Cation exchange resin RH plus are mainly styrene divinyl benzene copolymers, which on sulfonation or carboxylation become capable to exchange their hydrogen ions with the cations in the water. Next is anion exchange resins. These are represented as R-OH minus. They are styrene divinyl benzene or amine formaldehyde copolymers which contain amino or quaternary ammonium or quaternary phosphonium or tertiary sulfonium groups as the integral part of these resin matrix. These, after treatment with dilute NaOH solution, become capable to exchange their OH ions with anions in the water. This is the structure of the hydroform of anion exchangers. It has the exchanging capacity of OH minus. So the OH minus are exchanged, and this type of exchangers are known as anion exchangers, generally represented as R-OH minus. Now this is the diagram of the ion exchanger process. Now these exchangers are of two types. One is cation exchanger, the first one is cation exchanger, and the second one is anion exchanger. The raw water is fed into the first exchanger, that is cation exchanger feeded. As soon as it enters into the exchanger, it is evenly distributed with the help of the deflector plate with the help of small spray-like nozzles attached to the deflector plate that evenly distributes the water on the cation exchanger bed. As soon as the water comes into contact with the cation exchanger, which is generally represented as RH plus, having the capacity to exchange H plus ion with the water, hard water. So the reactions we have to see cation exchanger resins. RH plus when comes in contact with the cationic impurities Ca2 plus, it will be forming R2Ca2 plus as a precipitate. Downward arrow shows that it is a precipitate along with the release of 2 H plus ions. Similarly, the Mg2 plus are also trapped in the cation exchange in the form of R2Mg2 plus releasing 2H plus ion. So these two reactions will be occurring in the cation exchanger bed, and the precipitates formed will be stayed on the cation exchanger, and the water will be free from the cationic impurities and will contain H plus ions along with the anionic impurities, will travel through the gravel layer and will collect at the bottom of the cation exchanger, and then it will be pumped to the another exchanger with the help of the pump. As soon as it enters into the another exchanger, it is again evenly distributed with the help of the deflector plate. Then the water comes into contact with the anion exchanger bed. The anion exchanger bed are represented as R-OH minus. So now coming to the reaction site, anion exchanger, R-OH minus comes into the first impurity, chloride ions. It will be forming R-Cl minus as a precipitate, releasing OH ions in the water. Similarly, the next anionic impurities is SO4 2 minus, which will be again trapped as R-2 SO4 2 minus, releasing OH ions. The third impurity, anionic impurity CO3 2 minus, will be trapped as R-2 CO3 2 minus, releasing OH ions. So all the precipitates that are formed, whether it is chloride, sulfate or carbonate, will be staying on the topmost layer of the anion exchanger bed, and the water will now contain only H plus ion and OH ions forming H2O. Pure water, no sort of cationic impurities as well as anionic impurities. That will travel to the lower bottom of the anion exchanger and will be collected at the outlet as a softened water. So this process is making water free from cationic impurities as well as anionic impurities. Now the three names, okay? Why the three names are given to the one process only? As these are the two towers, different towers having the cationic exchanger. One is cationic exchanger, another is anionic exchanger. So it is known as ion exchange process, where the different ions are exchanged differently in the different towers. Next one is deionization process. No ions are being added in the water. There is no ions. All the ions are removed separately. Cationic impurities are removed separately. Anionic impurities are also removed separately. Demineralized water. The water doesn't contain any sort of minerals. It will contain only H plus ions and OH ions. So forming H2O, pure H2O. The mineral water. So the process is known as demineralization. No mineral ions are present in this water. After softening the water we get, there is no minerals, so the process is known as demineralization. Now what will happen after 14 to 16 hours or 10 to 14 hours depending on the impurities present in the hard water? The topmost layer of the cation exchanger and the anion exchangers will be choked up. So further the water cannot be get contact with the anion exchanger or cation exchanger to form the process of the softening. So at that time again the exchangers will be known as exhausted. So the exhausted exchangers has to be regenerated. Then what will be done? We will introduce the acid regenerator to recharge the cation exchanger. With the help of the injector, the acids, dilute acids are taken and injected into the cation exchanger. Now coming to the reactions. See, these were the impurities R2Ca2 plus when comes into contact with the dilute mineral acid, releasing only H plus ions. So we will get RH plus, that is nothing but our cation exchanger bed, along with the release of the Ca2 plus as a impurities or washings. R2 Mg2 plus when comes into contact with the acid ions, dilute acid ions, H plus ions, it will be again reclaimed and the washings will be containing Mg2 plus. So the washings will be removed to the sink and thus the cation exchanger will be again in the process. Now the anion exchanger process has to be injected with the alkaline regenerators to get it charged. R Cl minus will be recharged with the OH minus, that is your alkaline regenerator to form R OH minus reclaimed anion exchanger along with the Cl minus, SO4 2 minus, CO3 2 minus as impurities or washings. These reactions are shown very colorfully. The blue color indicates the precipitates formed on the exchangers. Green color indicates reclaimed exchangers and red color indicates washings. So these are the regeneration reaction. After the regeneration process is done, the softening process can be continued to more about near 12 to 14 hours. So this is the process of the ion exchange process or deionization process or demineralization process. Okay. Now the advantages of these processes. The process can be used to soften highly acidic or alkaline waters. It produces water of very low hardness, so it is very good for treating water for the use in the high pressure boilers. In the high pressure boilers where we have studied in the zeolite process that cannot be used in the high pressure boilers, forming boiler corrosion or boiler caustic embrittlement, such problems are not there when we use the deionized water or ion exchange water produced. So these are the two advantages of these two processes. Now coming to the disadvantages, the equipment is costly and more expensive chemicals are needed. If water contains turbidity, then the output of the process is reduced. The turbidity must be below 10 ppm. If it is more, it has to be removed first by coagulation and then filtration. So these are the two disadvantages of the ion exchange process. Hope that you have understood ion exchange process. Thank you.